podcast, The Rhythm. Go live, Vegas on the screen, feeling the flow, so pristine. Boom, as the beats align, electric dreams, they intertwine.
Please with me, Nancy's Riot podcast. About positivity, being strong, get survivor, mental health, helping each other and overcoming life's challenges. Psycho like a lab, walker, wish to be a herd. Hey, hey. Chasing me is everything to the Lord alone. Hey, I'll let no one chase. I don't win.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. And for everybody, as I always say, thank you so much for giving me your time, taking the time to watch my episodes and join me when I do go live. So thank you so much for your time. With that said, we're continuing the conversation on men's mental health since it is June, and I said that I would be speaking to men about mental health. And today, my guest is Carl John. Thank you for being with me today and being a part of my Riot. And CJ is a singer, songwriter, transformational artist, and more importantly, he's a father. And we're filming this on Saturday, but tomorrow is Father's Day. So anybody that is seeing this on Tuesday, I hope that you had a wonderful Father's Day. And CJ, you and I met in December of 2022.
Okay.
No, 2020. 2021.
Right. Was it?
Yeah, actually 2021.
Okay.
And something that I've not said to you is we met by accident, first of all.
Don't we all?
Right. And I've spoken about this in other episodes about my mental health and the abusive marriage that I left. And I had just met you because I had just left him. And I was so emotionally broken in that moment. And I still have the guitar pick that you gave me, that little heart that says Carl John.
It's my guitar pick.
Yeah, and that little gesture of kindness meant so much to me in that moment that's why I'm still hanging on to that guitar pick. So I don't know if you do that with anybody else, but if you don't, you should. Because I tell people we should, throughout the day, we should collect little gems that bring joy to us. And in that moment, you're one of the few things that brought me joy because of your kindness. And it really meant a lot to me. And I just wanted to tell you that personally.
Thank you.
How much that meant.
Yeah.
And you're also, as I'm sure you have as an artist, you come across a lot of people and have a lot of conversations with individuals. But you, out of over 1 million conversations and over 1 million people that I've met throughout my life, through the different hats that I wear, you are one of the kindest individuals from the moment I met you. And the reason why I tell you this is, for me, since brain surgery, it's very difficult for me to remember names. So a lot of the time, if it's a new face, I will not remember your name unless you made me feel a certain way. That is the only way my brain remembers you.
Or if they give you a guitar pick with their name on it.
Yeah, no. Well, remember we bumped into each other a couple of times, like to that yoga thing at Mount Charleston when we bumped into each other.
Okay.
I don't even remember the person who invited me. But I know I spoke to him more than you. But I can't remember his name. But I remembered your face because now the only way my brain remembers is how you made me feel. So it's either if you were kind to me or not. So, and you were. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for that kind gesture, and that guitar pick means so much to me.
It's wonderful. It means a lot that you kept it, and that
in my grateful journal that I started writing that year, and I've kept a journal ever since. And I was going to bring it in and I forgot it to show you that I still have it. But I actually took a picture of it when you gave it to me that day, and I snapped it and I put it in my grateful journal. And I said that day I was grateful for coming across you and having have met you. So thank you for that. So with that said, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to have these important conversations, because I think that it is very difficult for men to be vulnerable and open up about their feelings. And in the last year, I've had numerous conversations, different than any others, with men. I've had men cry to me and open up to me about things that they're going through in life. And I've realized throughout my conversations with people just how many people are yearning for connection and a simple act of a conversation of somebody just listening. So from your perspective as a man, do you know statistics on the suicide? I have them. If you over a million.
Well, I'm gonna misquote it, so you might as well give me the correct
So
one.
just to give you an idea, 1.6 million men have tried to commit suicide. 525,000 men have succeeded. We lose a man to suicide every minute, and 40% of men suffer from mental health. 32% grew up without a father. 75% of all suicides are committed by men. And those are some staggering numbers.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why do you think those numbers are so high from a man's perspective, or from your?
Well, I mean, there's a ton of contributing factors, you know. It feels to me that men tend to isolate themselves. Um, and it seems to me that women have a stronger support system with other women in their lives. That's what it appears to me. As somebody who was raised by a single mother, had a sister, and I was a single father to two daughters, I also, studied healing modalities that tend to lean primarily female. And so a lot of my clients were women as well. And so that's what I've noticed. And I know even in my own personal journey, I tend to isolate myself when I have problems going on because I don't want to burden others with my issues. I'll be the first to listen to someone else's, but then not bring up my own in the moment. And I think many men take that to their grave too early.
You know, one thing that I've also realized is there isn't any shelters for men for abuse, because men get abused too.
Oh, yeah.
And in the conversations that I've had with men, some have opened up to me about the abuse they've suffered in their relationships. And I have found it interesting because there was one particular person, and I gave him my name. I let him know I was going to be launching a podcast. And we had a 3-hour conversation. And I've never had anybody a man cry to me for 3 hours. And just, I could sense his emotional pain. And he was opening up to me about the abuse that he suffered while he was married. And that emotional pain that I heard in his voice, that's why I gave him 3 hours of my time. And in that moment is when I realized, I've never seen a shelter for men. And I don't, as a woman who has a son and I have brothers, I've been asking myself the question the last few months, as a mom, as a sister, as a friend, just as a woman, how can I help men? Because it's that struggle with this, and when I have conversations with my son and he opens up to me about different aspects of his life, You know, he's 32, so he's a man. And I don't know that men have a lifeline. And so I'm wondering, as women, what do you feel, and like I said, sisters, friends, how we can be a lifeline, or, you know, signs that maybe a man is struggling mentally? Is there anything that you could share that you can think of that stands out throughout the work that you've done?
You know, the things that I have found that have helped me have still been um, community, but it's been things that I've taken on myself, like
Hmm.
meditation and yoga and those practices, right? Um, to It's challenging. It's challenging to find a safe space for men to communicate their issues with women without feeling or looking weak or a fear of it being used against them at another time. And that's what I find as a common thread. And yeah, I know a lot of men that have been through abuse. I mean, you know, and it's funny because it's joked at a lot of times. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's a younger girl who is uh, preyed upon by an older man, it's everybody's up in arm, pitchforks, and you know, it's a thing. Flip that around, it's almost joked about still to this day. Not as much. They
Right.
try to not as much, but it still
It's still
is.
there.
It's still there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the hot teacher that was with the 14-year-old boy or whatever. That's all the I've seen that in the news so much over this last number of years, but it's kind of like brushed off, right? And like physical abuse. I mean, so many single mothers raising boys, right? And they may be heavy handed, right? So a young boy coming up now is hit and taught not to raise their hand to a woman. So they just become a punching bag in their life. And so it affects them in relationships going forward because they'll shut down as opposed to letting that rage build up in them or saying, and they may not ever raise a hand, right? But
Right.
they may also shut down communication and isolate themselves, which leads to where this began, suicide, right? They just
Yeah.
want to end it because the thing is, you don't feel seen, you don't feel heard, and you don't feel like you can express yourself, and so you feel boxed in into a smaller and smaller box until you don't feel you're worth anything in this world.
Have you ever think suffered abuse with a woman?
Yeah,
You have?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
What was that like?
Uh, I mean, I had early sexualization, like probably now these days, kids, with pornography everywhere on their phone. I mean, I was exposed at like 7, right? And that was, you know, reel to reel movies and magazines, right? Now
Mhm.
it's like all over the place, and that screws with your brain a little bit. And then when older girls would experiment, you know, with you, they're in their teens and you're in your single digits,
Right.
with whatever games you're playing or babysitters or whatnot, and I had my mom, single mom, was heavy-handed. I love her and I know her love language and all that. And I know she came from an abusive household herself. Her dad died of cirrhosis when she was 14. He was, it was a very abusive household. She was a single mother who, was barely in her early 20s, when she became a single mom and she has 2 kids and she's whatever, but her way to keep people in line was that, you know. And so I had a lot of that growing up. Um, and I don't think that's uncommon. You feel like it's uncommon because you don't speak about it. But
Right.
then as the years go on and you become more, engaged with people that can communicate, you find that it is more common than you think. And that's why also, in this world of um, and it became with the Me Too movement and all that, consent, right?
Right.
Consent for men too is important. When women are, lean in too much and are too physical in whatever ways, and sometimes really aggressively,
Yeah.
I'll say something like, consent means a lot to me, because I'm good with whatever, I'm good with whatever,
Yeah.
but I want to be on the same page. And you don't know where someone's past trauma comes from. And maybe it came from that. And they want to feel like they're empowered as well as empowering another, right?
Right.
In their communication with you, right? I'm going to respect you. I want the same respect. It's not that I want everything because I'm a man. That's not true. That's not necessarily the case. And you may not know where I'm at in my journey right now. I may be going through a moment of celibacy. I may be going through whatever it is, that I'm choosing in this moment. Or I want to explore more deep communication and not as much physical in this moment because I'm learning something about myself. I'm in this growth phase. And to assume these things, and I'm going all over the board right now, but
No,
it's like,
I
guys, it's like you get, it's sometimes men are pressured to explore in a particular direction with women, right? And then are pressured in an odd way about not responding, like their guilt is laid on in certain ways of like, you know um oh, you're not attracted to me, or you're whatever it is. And I've experienced that a lot as well. And it's like, well, maybe, I was hypersexual for a long portion of my life. Some may call it a whore. But you know
I think everybody has had their horror
yeah,
days.
yeah, I had many, many,
Every
many a day.
yeah, it's just some
Yeah,
people won't admit it
yeah, I had many a
because of
day.
judgment.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and it's like I had many a day, but then I went through a period too that it was important to me to build outside of that. Like when I became a healer, I became a teacher in a Sui Reiki, which is a healing
Hmm.
modality, right? And that was a number of years of a practice, and it was like a deepening and deepening, and I was changing my relationship with, more of the spiritual, divine feminine, right? And so I was really trying to shift how I saw and what was driving me,
Hmm.
and be honest with myself and what was driving me, and find more of a heart space with people in connection than go to, which was a program. And so I had to overcome that. And so it was, I think, back to, you don't know where somebody's coming from, and to respect each other as souls without the form of male or female or whatever it is, I think is important.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel that a lot of the time judgment comes because I think in order for like me to understand you or for you to understand me, you have to know where I've been, where I am, and where I'm going. And I don't think people just in general, 10 out of 10 times, they're not curious. They don't ask questions to get to know the person as an individual. You know, because we all have trauma, whether we realize it or not. And I know for me personally, one of the things that I was carrying a lot of is shame.
Mm.
And I know that I would silence myself with sometimes without anybody else having to silence me because I have a quote, you can't lie to yourself. Your mind knows the truth to your thoughts.
Mm.
And I knew I was lying to myself, even though with the words that I was speaking. And now I have been doing so much work on myself. Like I don't give a shit anymore. And I tell people, even though my number age wise is not old, but my mind is like an 80-year-old.
Mm.
And that piece of my brain that was removed has now been replaced with the gift of discernment. And I couldn't see it then. And that's why when I met you, I was just trying to make so much sense of the chaos, but I couldn't because I didn't even know myself and I couldn't understand myself. So, what have you, because you're a transformational artist,
Mhm.
so can you elaborate on what that means and the tools that you have used or have done and continue to do that could help somebody listening to this podcast?
Okay. Well, transformational artists and what that is, um, and somebody else coined that term, me, and it was, I had went through most of my life in one path. I was not an artist, didn't play music, didn't do art, didn't write anything else. I set out on my way in business and real estate developer and all of these things, restaurateur, advertise. I've done a bunch
How
of
long
stuff.
did you do that for?
Oh, and like till my mid to late 30s.
Okay.
And, it was only during a downturn and I got wiped out, divorce, custody battle, lost millions of dollars, got tapped, that I went to recreate my life based on some spiritual truths and things that I was learning about, you know? And so I was applying them in real time and watching the results, which was also freaking me out because I was having things like manifest really quickly on this space I was in. It was really crazy. And that's what I share in my show. I have a show called Art Becoming over at the space in Las Vegas. And
When is it?
oh, the next one is July 7th.
Okay.
Yeah.
What time?
7/7/7. July
777.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
July 7th
Don't
to 7
forget that.
p.m.
777.
Yeah, July 7th, 7 p.m.
Okay, 7 p.m.
At the
There, you
space.
can't forget that, guys.
Yeah. And so I share a lot about that journey in the music and songs and what drove certain things um, to inspire that. But the transformation, what was happening in me became so much crazier than the musician that I was becoming. I ended up in Nashville. I had like amazing stuff happen. I won a Hollywood Music Award in LA, and like different things were happening, but was deeper was what I was learning about energy and meditation and all that. And I got into Kundalini yoga. I became, like I said, a teacher in Asui Reiki. I, got into a deep meditation practice, self-realization, right? And started teaching within that space as well. And so that's what I do in some of the healing and coaching work that I do with people that are looking to transform their life and break patterns, is some of the things that I learned around there that you can use to shift your framework quickly in breath work and in meditation and in certain movements, right? Um, so that's what I've learned that helps along the way.
Now, do you still teach?
What's funny, when I met you, I'd stopped, and here's why. I came, I was in the Bay Area, so I'm divorced, single father. Went back there raising my daughters. Was in a relationship, went through a breakup out there. I came back out to Vegas to kind of reset. Told the girls that they were older at this point, in high school and that, or getting in there actually. Um, And a couple days later, COVID happened. So I was stuck out here. I went out to my father's out in Pahrump. Then the girls came out. It was a whole thing. And then I rented a place back in the Bay Area. I was in no place in when I was going through that traumatic breakup to teach. And I can't, and that's the thing where like social media sometimes bothers me. It's like they're always putting out this brand, but sometimes your brand's not on point in real life. And
Right.
and I can't be authentic, and I was not in my practice. I was not in my right space to do that type of work. When I'm in an argument with somebody on the phone, it's hard for me to go and teach 35 people meditation 10 minutes later. That's my truth.
Yeah.
So I was like, I went out here to reset. This is where I used to have my businesses. I knew a lot of community. I had friends out here, and I was just coming back to reset. COVID happened. One thing led to another. I felt something going on with my oldest daughter. I had a place back in the Bay, was going back and forth. She moved in with me full time. A couple of days later, she went through a trauma. My focus was on her and using those practices to help heal her during that time. And that's about the time you met me. I started doing some coaching work with a handful of clients. I was no longer doing hands-on healing work except for my friends and family. And it's funny because only as of late, I've had some old students of mine that I've certified within this modality and whatnot kind of pushing in on me about doing this work again. And so I tend to be in a flow state of being guided by the universe
Mm-hmm.
when certain signs keep showing up. And that's been showing up more and more these days,
Ah.
which is leaning me uh, toward that expression of helping others do the healing work again and doing more group type of things, you know. And that's also even when my performances and my songs are within that framework as well
Mm-hmm.
of transformation and healing. That's really where I write from.
So how did you pivot from your old life, real estate, restaurant business, into singing? And how has that helped change you or help heal you in your healing process?
Well, music is a mantra. Um, and I discovered a lot um, about vibration and even some of the tunings that I use on a couple of the songs. I have an album, and if you want to know the whole story,
Yeah,
I
please.
have an audiobook out. It's Carl John, The Journey Home. There's a book, but there's an audiobook out. The
Mm-hmm.
audiobook I think is so much better because it has the music on there that came about during this experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I share that whole journey and what I was learning in that time. I mean, even to the point of when I was singing, like I performed at a red carpet event opening up for Robin Thicke at the Venetian with all, like probably the fourth time I'd played with a band ever.
Uh-huh.
The first song I ever wrote, the first time I played it in front of people was at that thing.
Wow.
That's how crazy things were
Yeah.
happening, right? But what I learned during that time when I was rehearsing one day is when I was singing, I had a certain tone because I was practicing with this little recorder, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'd listen back and record my right because I was just learning to sing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was in it, in my mind, in my heart space, and the lights were there and the people, and I leaned in. And when I listened to it back, it was like two different people.
Huh.
And I've noticed that over and over
Interesting.
again. And there was a an audio engineer in Nashville who joked about that. He was like, "Yeah, no two CJ cuts are alike," and that's true. It's like my tone can be very very different where
Mm-hmm.
I'm at in my heart. And it's really only where I'm at in my heart and my head. And I've experienced that so many times now that, like, if I'll show up to perform, depending on where I'm at vibrationally that way, it's like two different people, you know? Showing up. The sound, the feel, the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I learned a lot through that because that's where music started. It was ceremony, it was spiritual, it was medicine. It wasn't, a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
We commoditized it, and to the fact that now we're not even creating it, the computers are creating it,
Right.
that's not medicine. So I'm bringing it back, and that's what the show about art becoming is about, that through line of the art and the music. And I bring in other artists that you may know, they're popular entertainers, to talk about their story of the muse and the artistry, and how one thing kind of, did they lead the art or did the art lead them,
Mm-hmm.
because it was coming from outside of them. And it's like everything comes from outside. Your thoughts,
Right.
not coming from in you, they're coming from without, right? And so those thoughts, it's the same thing with music. It's coming from somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think it's that through line of connection that it comes through to you in that moment for your healing. That's what it's about.
Now, with the artists of Art Becoming that are part of your show,
Hmm.
do you see a pattern of like the same stories coming up with the different artists that they've struggled with? Because patterns don't lie, is what I've come to
Yeah.
realize.
And well, it's interesting. I've noticed that the audience hasn't got to notice it yet.
Ah.
The first show I did, with a gentleman who's been with Barry Manilow forever. And the second show I'm doing, is another artist who's well known on the strip, uh, Kyle Martin, Piano Man. He has a show out and he has an album coming out. So it's his own artistry. Now, I've had conversations, and the first one I had, in the first show last month, it's like that through line of his experience was also my experience but different. And I'm seeing that with everybody. Like there is a common pattern in the art and the creative force energy and the expression and how it's healing them at the same time, which back to mental health, I've said there's a fine line between brilliant and batshit crazy. And that's a truth.
It's
And
a
you
truth.
see it with with artists all the time. Some of the most amazing artists that are on the verge, and it's like manic. I one of the things I started all the visual art that I do, I started with a heart, right, on the canvas, and so I started the first show with a heart on the canvas. And what I'm doing through this whole experience is creating in the flow state. The show itself is art. I didn't know what I was going to do when I first pitched the show. Exactly what I was going to do. I didn't know. And so there's a lot of pressure, time,
Yeah.
and all these things to show up. And when that show happened, it delivered all the things that I wanted because I did nothing but set my intention. I didn't know what or how, but I set my intention that I wanted to create community, that I wanted it to be nurturing. I wanted it to feed people. I wanted it to be inspiring. All those words came back to me from audience members. Those words that were part of my intention, right? So the same thing when I did the heart. And then I was like, oh, this next show, I'm going to bring that canvas back and see where it's gotten to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's going to get to, and I don't know when it's going to get to. I'm on the road. I'm going to take my daughter up to, she's going back to college and had her take her car up, all these things.
Yeah.
When am I going to be in the space to have that moment? Well, that moment, I'll show you like in this. You folks at home can't see this.
Well, no, we can show them. You can show, just turn your phone and show it to the
the other
camera.
night, it's like I went to a bit of a manic episode, and so that canvas became this, and like
we got to show, because I've seen some of your artwork,
Yeah.
and you are very talented.
Thank you.
Just as an art. Okay.
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 And
then
so this started in like a 4.5 hour manic episode. And I call it a manic episode because that's what it feels like when you're all of a sudden you go and you start doing, and then you go, oh, that's what that is. That's what the art is becoming. That's where the name came from too, art becoming. It's not me. It's not the little me. It's not CJ. I don't know shit. And that's what my music, everything. It's like half the time when I'm writing songs, I don't even know I'm writing it. I'm always writing, always writing. And then all of a sudden I sit down one day and I share that song because I'm playing something and it matches this thing and it becomes a thing in a moment as an answer. And so this art was that, this show is that I wanted it to be more inspiring. This town is filled, Vegas is filled with amazing entertainers. I'm blessed that a lot of them are my friends now. I perform with them now. There's musical directors in town that I have love with. I've performed with in Smith Center and here and that, right?
Yeah.
Having never been an artist when I was here before, right? There's a lot of talent here, but I wanted to express the art, the artistry, not the performance as much. There's a performance, but I wanted to share this journey not only with people who appreciate music and art, but with artists themselves. Because, hey man, if you're starting out in your journey, my last show with Kai Brackett, who's been with Barry Manilow for 20 some years, and Joey Malati, who's musical director and all that, right? They've done command performances for the Queen of England. They played Carnegie Hall, and they've done all the things.
Yeah.
You could probably learn something as a new artist wherever you're at in your journey too. So I want to bring artists in there too, and this is a place that they can show that part of themselves as well, not just be maybe they're they have a uh, a tribute show on the Strip or whatever their thing is, and are
Yeah.
amazing, artists that they got to this, but this is their bread and butter. This is their thing, and so maybe this becomes their job. Because
Yeah.
at some point it does. The show doesn't change. You do the whatever, right? And so this is another expression that I think is unique in this town pool of talent.
Now, do you find that painting on a canvas or singing, do they fulfill your spirit, your soul equally, or is it the same just in two different manners?
Um,
And the reason why I ask is because as a singer, you have an audience.
mhm,
So I know for me, when I'm going to give a speech, I'm a nervous wreck
mm.
every single time that I'm going to get up on that stage. Although I've done it, you know, it's still like I'm doing it for the first time, and I have to almost like silence the noise, to be able, and I tune everybody out. But in order to get to that stage, and then every time when I'm done, I think I sucked. And then I go back and I listen to myself and I'm like, wow, I did really good. So, how, for you, is there a difference in the way that you express the two different styles of art? And where does that come from?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is the visual art came because a producer I was working with in Nashville and then became a friend, and we lived together basically, and everything else at the time that I was there, is a visual artist, and he's great. And I learned a lot through him, and he taught me some things, and I learned from watching. And then I found my own artistry. I didn't even know, but I was like, all of a sudden, this thing that I always dreamt of doing, I was actually doing. I'm in Nashville. I'm recording like this dream this little boy had that, it's like, what's the craziest thing I could do? If I can imagine everything, anything in my life or dream anything in my life, what's the most out there thing? Well, it's this, right? Having been a business guy. And I went through this past, and all of a sudden these things are showing up. But then it was like pressure. I had to write a song, and I like it was, now it's a thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm just going to learn to paint while I'm here, because who cares? It doesn't mean anything. And the first painting I did full was for my daughter's 5th birthday. And I was there. And so it's a picture of her. It's over at my parents' house. And uh, I realized, like, when the guy who showed me how to paint, like, he told me, he walked by one time and his painting, he's like, the hell is he doing? He told me, I look at, he goes, what the hell is he doing? And it's like, then he goes, he came back by later and he goes, oh, he goes, it's just how you see the world. So that's how I see the world, right? And so that thing for me is this tuning out and trusting, because every piece of art, and this is the now and art becoming as a show, it's the same thing where I have freak out moments, because when you do a thing and you're creating new art, the only way to do that is to go outside of the lines that you've made for yourself. And so there's a moment you go, yeah, and then you go, ah! That's, it's just like this moment of I screwed everything up. But you have to trust and work through it to get, and then you go, oh, and then it may become the next series of things. Like the art that I'm bringing to the next show, there's a theme around the thing, and you can see some of the expression and through line, and here's how it started, you know and you trust it that way. The performance part, the writing part, is very different. The writing part is torturous for me, but it's also healing when it's done, when it's birthed. Performance performance is always nerves, ego, balance of ego and swagger, because it's like there's a part that if I'm not having fun in it, why am I doing it? So that I have to bring out that swagger part, and it's like that whatever I want to feel and really express it to have any fun in it, you know? And so I've been getting to play in that, because I pretty much stopped doing music for a moment. um during COVID and whatnot. I was
Yeah.
doing some writing and whatnot, but nothing important. And then I kind of found a heart in it again, and I stopped again. I've had some successes, and I pull back and stop performing for a year and a half, 2 years. It would go as maybe this time is done. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but it's a part of me now, and the only time that it means anything to me is when it's not about me, any of it. When it's not about me, it's the only time it means anything to me. It's like when I'm really in my authentic heart, when I write, when I'm in my authentic heart of trying to connect with the person in front of me and really feel them. And I want to express something that they may relate to. That's the only time it matters. Yeah, other than that, it's just, it's
Mm-hmm.
masturbation. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, as a single dad, and a girl dad,
Mm.
more than anything, in today's society, how has that been challenging for you, or what challenges do you think that men face being single dads? Because that, you know, we hear a lot about single moms,
Mhm.
but I don't think there's enough single dads sharing their stories.
Well, and thank you for bringing this up. And you know, I don't know how this will come across. Um, but as a single father during COVID, this is actually a thing. There's a group out there. It's called the Human Library,
Mm-hmm.
humanlibrary.org. I don't know if you've went to it, but you check out people instead of books. And it was started overseas, I think Switzerland or Sweden, I can't remember. But they were speaking at college campuses and they were doing all these things to big groups.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be like, you know, rape survivor, schizophrenic, whatever the thing is,
Yeah.
high functioning autistic, whatever. And you got to ask them questions. And so it was like checking out a person instead of a book. And it's hard to argue with somebody's experience. And then you could
Right.
actually, share this. So a friend of mine reached out who was producing during COVID because they took it all in house and they were doing Zoom things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he reached out. He goes, "Would you be interested in doing this around transformation, your healing journey?" I said, "Sure." And I filled out the application, did the thing, and I put on there I was a single father and whatnot. And right before the first Zoom call with the executive team at the Human Library, they said, "And we want you to talk about being a single father." Oh, and I was not prepped because I wrote a book on the other subject and I knew what I was going to say,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it's like, and go. So I shot from the hip, right? And because it said it's the thing that I never even knew that I wanted and became the most real thing about me is being a single father.
Mm-hmm.
And then they asked me back again. And then they asked me back again. Then they changed it instead of single father to single parent because they realized there is an inherent prejudice when you say single parent and then it pops up and it's a male.
Oh,
People
really?
assume
It's a mom.
female. Yeah. So
Wow.
there's an inherent prejudice, which is important because there's an inherent prejudice in society as well.
Agreed.
One of the things that's been challenging is, if you try to make peace by allowing your ex or whatnot to create the life that they want and you don't stabilize your own,
Mm-hmm.
and they will try quite possibly, and I see this often, especially if they get in another relationship, to sort of try to push you out of the picture
Right.
because there's resentment, whatever the thing is. And that has led to more mental health issues with people, men that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've coached many friends through that process, okay, because of my own experience. It's like, no, do not do this. Make sure you stabilize yourself first. Because you're going to want the best thing for the children. I think, how we do like prenups and all of that.
Yeah.
I believe that instead of talking about a prenup with your money, because you don't really care at that point, if you really do care about your kids and what, you don't really care about the money. You're like, I'll make other money, whatever,
Right.
right? And money's easy. It's like divide it and go whatever, you
Right.
know, or drive yourself nuts. It's up to you. But when it comes to children, I think when you're going to have children, you should create a prenup. You should be, because like we love each other right now, and we go like, what do we want for our kids? And God forbid this doesn't work. We still know we love those kids. I love them. You love them. What would be the best situation for these children? And I think if you would both be coming from a legitimately powerful point in that experience, as opposed to when everything's falling apart and you're just wanting to create havoc and hurt another person and use the children as leverage or whatever things that people do.
Right.
I think because you would go back to this is what we've found is important. And we still believe that because it's not about us and it's not about whatever baggage we brought to it, whatever, screw ups we did in the marriage, whatever that thing is. This is still probably true. We still probably believe these things about how we want to raise our children and how we want to co-parent and how we want to work together. And so let's find the pathway to that. And if we have problems communicating, let's rectify that. If we have problems with, whatever the thing is, let's find a pathway to rectify that in this process through our separation.
Yeah.
And I think that would be important because I feel like men, so many have found themselves chasing their tail. I know that when I have not been, with my daughters, when I'm not with them, many times I would be depressed right after I
Oh,
would drop
really?
them back up. Yeah. And a lot of my friends feel the same way. There's like there's like immediate depression. And I have found that if I was going to fall back into any negative thoughts, vices, anything like that, it's going to be at that point because I feel like the worst about myself. And it's like you question everything, you always, because you want to be a good parent, you know? And, luckily that I am. I have a 22-year-old and a 19-year-old now, and I have great relationships with them. We talk about everything, um, I have an honest relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
I decided that early on that I was going to have a painfully honest relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also learned to communicate in a way that you know me as that I was not before
Yeah.
during this time because raising two daughters changed me as a man as well.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So, I feel like men could use some more support and some more compassion um, when it comes to being a single parent. I feel like, well, I can't think of what I say. Mother's Day is the number two holiday after Christmas, and like Father's Day is like 20th on the list or something like that, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so I mean that's a very real thing, and not the holiday. I don't care about that, but I mean like it's you're discounted in a lot of ways, and I don't think our society was supposed to be built in obviously all this
Yeah.
separation and whatnot, and the it is an important role. The man does have an important role in the household. Whether that's going to be in two different households or whatever you're creating, I think it is important. And if you strip that away from a man who's conscious in any way, it's going to damage him. It's going to damage him. I mean, I've had suicidal thoughts, you know many times. I mean, the beginning of my book starts with a 45 under my seat leaving town, not knowing if I was coming back from that ride. That's how that starts.
Really?
So yeah.
Well, what was going on through your mind that, or if you like to share that you didn't know if you were going to come back?
Yeah, I was still in the midst of the divorce. My ex was going out to the East Coast to visit her parents or something like that. Um, I was losing all of my money because I was going through the downturn in the economy in '08,
Yeah.
and I knew it. The writing was on the wall with all the things and my commercial buildings, all the stuff was happening. And I was a mess. I was just a hot mess at that time, you know. Um, I always call that my Nikki Six years. If you know Nikki Six from Motley Crue,
Yeah.
that was my Nikki Six years. I was just like I was a train wreck when I didn't have the girls
Mm-hmm.
because I was just losing it. And I was just not the version. I didn't want to be the version that I knew of myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, when I did come back from that journey is when I began this next section of my life because I didn't really come back, not all of me.
Is there something in particular that you can pinpoint that makes you feel depressed when your girls would leave? Because as a single mom, I know that when my kids would go to their dad, I would find other things to fill that space with. And looking back, I now realize that that was just me trying to soothe that emptiness. So, how the depression that you would feel and that your other single your friends that are single dads, what do you think it is that makes you feel that way or takes you to that spot?
You feel disconnected, and especially when they're younger, so much happens in such short periods of time,
Right.
right? And you miss things. And you find that all the things that drove you prior to having kids, you don't care about anymore in the same way. And so, you're just at a loss for why you're doing what you're doing, what are you doing, and especially if you don't have uh, a solid agreement in your custody and all the things, you may feel at a loss for who you are, what you are,
Mm-hmm.
and then like, knowing that you don't have that influence, it kind of, it's like, it sucks. It's like my kids had, phones and iPads and that way too early. I would have never had them have that. The reason they did is because of communication.
Yeah.
I knew I wouldn't be able to communicate with them in the same way if they didn't have that,
Right.
right? Anytime they wanted, anytime I wanted, and so that became a lifeline in a way, when you're not with them, you know. Uh,
And it sucks.
it does suck.
It sucks. Yeah, because I don't even know that now that my kids are older and my son, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with him a couple months ago. He was over for dinner
Mm.
and what because I had girls too, two daughters, and he was my only son. And since dad was in the military, he was always gone. So it was like I was still a single mom in a sense. And one of the things that he shared with me for the first time is that nobody ever taught him how to tie a tie.
Mm.
It was his best friend's dad, who was our family doctor at the time, taught him. And I said, what do you mean? And he's like, well, daddy was never, he was always gone. And he said, so, uh, you know, his best friend, he said his best friend's dad taught him. And I said, really? And in that moment, I realized that there was so many things that I missed with him because I treated them all the same, but I didn't realize that he was a boy and he had different needs than the girls, and something so simple as tying a tie.
Mm.
And it's interesting now that him and I have the conversations about the girlfriends, and he got out of a long-term relationship, and the things that he shared with me, that I realized I had to tell him, how magical of a man he is and that he's some woman's dream because of how caring, and he's just so kind. And those are things that I didn't do it when he was younger because, like I said, I just treated them all three the same because I thought that was the way to do it, but as him and I have the more in-depth conversations, it op- that's why to me it's become so important to understand my son and him as a man and not just look at him as my son, he's my son, but he's still a man and he still has needs. And him feeling comfortable enough to come open up to me as his mom about anything, because I don't ever want him to find himself in an abusive relationship with a woman,
Mm.
and because I don't know what I would do to her,
Yeah.
if he ever came and told me that a woman laid her hands on him,
Right.
So it's interesting having these in-depth conversations with him, and he's the one that is really opening up my eyes to how much is needed of a lifeline for men, and how much our society judges, and our society has made it very difficult for a man to be vulnerable. And in another episode with the first person I had, when we were, you get told to man up, or, suck it up, or get over it. You're a man. And it shouldn't be that way. And we need to change that. And that's why, for me, these conversations are so important. And when I sought out to do this podcast, I realized that my life, I've been through so much shit that I'm like, I can't keep quiet, because I have all this wisdom and knowledge that I know my life can serve as a guide for somebody else that might find themselves in a difficult situation that they think, because I still to date, sometimes, because I live with chronic pain and the pain gets so intense sometimes, my mind does go to those dark thoughts. So I also understand why people take their lives who live with chronic pain, because some days are so hard, and I don't think people really talk about that it takes a lot for me when I'm in those moments just to not go there, because it's so much easier to just, you know
Excuse me.
say I'm throwing in the towel. I think I've done enough in this life, and
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
it's done and over with, like I'm cool.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what do you what have you, in your life, do you think you've done right? What have you done wrong? And what would you do differently?
Well, my belief is that, you know, when karmic debt is paid in a way that the the time shifts and the story shifts. So if you shift a thing here, it in turn makes all this right.
Mm,
Where it's like all of a sudden you go, oh, that was the reason for all this. And this was actually okay. This was okay too. And boy, I'm actually glad that happened because this wouldn't have happened.
yeah.
So you just have to change the now. There's things that I've regretted that later I found that I'm happy that happened. And there's things that, I was so proud of myself in the moment that I wished would have never gone through or went, because there was this, blip on the radar that had this, you know, uh, um, long tail
Hmm.
of heartache or tragedy or whatever thing may come of it. So I don't really live as much in that space of regret or feeling like I really did this well, or I really, because even in my daughters, right? My daughters, I mean, part of the reason for driving with a gun under my seat was, they were little and thinking that I'm losing everything when, my oldest, I was like, oh, I've got her college paid for and I'm
Yeah.
ready to, I can like look at retiring at some point, it's like, and all of a sudden all that's gone, right? I have no stability. Um, almost in a very short period, and seeing them was like part of the reason that I wanted to off myself, right? Turn around. They're probably many times the only reason I've stayed here. And it isn't even from a place of like when I've hit those points in my life, of depression or suicidal thoughts. it's not even of like everything's so miserable in this moment. It's like I felt like I've done all the things. It's like I'm good.
Hmm.
It's like if I go, I'm good. I've, I've done all the things.
Yeah.
Did all my bucket lists. Early, and of course I can create a new bucket list, and yeah, you can go to another place and do another thing, get a bigger boat or whatever it is you
Right.
do, right? But I felt like I've experienced the thing. You know, that's not true. That's a limiting belief in this is,
Hmm.
you know, that we're in. But you still have those moments,
Yeah.
where the little wounded part of me comes through, because there is that, I do have that part of me that shows up. And if I don't recognize him, and do the things to help mitigate those thoughts, they can run the show, they can spend me, because it's a like a deep root in there that if it's not unwound, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing that I've learned is when I'm having an emotion
Mm.
is to sit with it and ask myself, is it is this really what I'm feeling? Is this reality? Or do I just need to sit here with the emotion, let it go through me, and then think about what it was versus making an impromptu decision because I'm feeling it in that moment. And that's something that I used to do before. So I would preoccupy my mind with something else, to change my thought process versus sitting with it and dealing with whatever it is that comes up versus burying it.
Mm.
So, do you find that men bury a lot of
Yeah,
those things?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It seems that most do. My daughters both said, like, "You're not like other dads," and they've said that many
Mm.
times, and it has to do with the way I communicate with them, and the way I share with them, and that's learned. That's been through this expression of becoming this other person who's more empathetic and uh, um, more emotional, shares more,
Yeah.
it listens deeper. But I've also taken classes on that. I've read books, like all of it, nonviolent
Yeah.
communication, all the things, right? Um, but even in that, I find that, I will bury things and not share them. And I find that guys do that often. I mean, you can go to, many a bar or many, uh, sports bar in town or whatever. And sometimes what you're doing is just focusing your attention somewhere else to not deal with whatever that thing is, because you're like, I don't have time for this. I gotta this, deal that needs done. We need the bills paid. I gotta buy the thing, whatever. And it's
Yeah.
like you're just running by it. And I guess it becomes like, why are you here? And at some point I stopped looking at, I'm here because of the, you know, acquiring the trinkets along the way, and I'm on a soul's journey. If my soul, my energy is eternal and on it goes, why am I actually here? What am I actually growing through? What am I actually learning?
Hmm.
That's more important than all this stuff that you're
Yeah.
taking with you, this Maya, this media, it's like nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you said that the way that you parent, that your kids tell you, your daughters tell you that you're a different type of dad because you communicate with them. Now, do you do it through humor? Do you do it through singing to them? How how do you do it?
All of the above.
All of
I
the
mean,
above.
yeah, I mean, it's I've spent a lot of time having conversations with my daughter. I mean, when my oldest went through a trauma and she moved in with me full time and everything else, it was like I would spend a couple hours a day on walks with her,
Hmm.
talking, right? She's still, her communication style, like my youngest is very busy, very driven, and she communicates more frequently, quick texts,
Yeah.
things like that. We really bond face to face when we do the thing,
Yeah.
right? My oldest, I may not hear from her. I may send 4 texts before she responds, right? But then she gets on the phone with me and she's on for 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So, a lot of our communication is talking and road trips. I,
Road trips.
oh, I love road trips. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because it's like an isolated time that it's kind of like, if you go to a therapist's office and they go, so what's your problem? You're just like, I don't have a problem. What's your problem? It's like
Yeah.
whatever it is. But if you just hang with somebody long enough, it's kind of like fishing or something. You sit there just on the dock and doing your thing, and something's going to come up naturally because it wants to come out, but needs space. So it allows space, right? And the thing is with a road trip, which I've always loved about road trips, is you're present in a new way. It's kind of like, when you drive somewhere and it's nighttime,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're traveling across the country or whatever. And you drive somewhere and it's getting late and you go to your hotel or whatever. And then you leave there in the morning, maybe before sunrise, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
get up early and get on the road
Yeah.
and you're 100 miles from that place when the sun's rising. You have no clue what the scenery around you is going to be. It's like this unveiling, right?
Yeah.
You're not where you were. You don't even know where you're at, right? And it's like you just have to be present in whatever it is. Oh, what's this place over here? Let's swing in there. And so I feel like it allows for those conversations to come out, and you can find the honesty in there.
Mm.
Like, what is it you really want to share with me right now? What is it, the deeper issue you're going through right now? It's like, oh, you're having this. Well, it's, is that the problem, or is it, a level below that problem that you really need to address?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like when my kids were growing up and they became teenagers, the first time they were headed to a party, I remember telling my daughter, "Don't drink and drive, you might spill your drink." And they paused, like, "What?" I go, "Don't drink and drive, you might spill your drink." She's like, "Mom." And it still has stuck with them, you know, and now you have two daughters. Do they ever argue about who their favorite is? Who your favorite is? Like,
Oh,
I'm your favorite,
they
you know?
joke around, and it's like it's funny because I have two very, there's like my sister and I are two completely different
Hmm.
creatures. My daughters are two completely different creatures. The communication style, where we talk about what I see in them, like my strengths, my weaknesses, like I see all these
Oh
things in
yeah.
them,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, oh, that's her battle. Oh, I wish she didn't have that battle, but maybe it's because I didn't heal it myself soon enough,
Yeah.
whatever, you know? And um yeah, but it's like there's no favorite. It's like there's one I relate to in certain things e like easily,
Hmm.
and one is been a more like challenging
Yeah.
experience, but that's also like deepened our relationship in a way. I mean, my oldest has told me like he says God has put me in her life to save her multiple times. Like I've been the one that
Wow.
saved her multiple times. And she goes, you just couldn't have known the things you did or in this moment or whatever. And so you have a spiritual, soul connection with your children,
Yeah.
and it's your journey to figure out what that is about, but it's not to be discounted or swept under the rug
Yeah.
for sure.
This is how I describe my kids.
Hmm.
If I want an intellectual conversation, I go to the oldest. If I want to be reminded of the simple things in life, I go to my son. And if I want to be reminded how expensive children are, I go to my youngest. Because that sums all three of them up in their personalities. How would you describe your daughters in that sense?
That's good. That's good. My what's funny is my friends have a yacht rock group out in Vegas called the Docksiders, which are amazing, right? And I love checking them out. So when my
Hmm.
oldest was out here, she's was turning 22, and usually she's with her sister, and she was out by herself and went to the show, and she had a good time and everything else. But Kevin Suker, who's the lead in the group, came over and said, "So, you know any of the songs?" And she's like, "No, but I liked it. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it." Right. And my youngest would have known every song, right? Because she's the one. I there was
They
like,
like your music?
yeah, yeah, yeah. They
Yeah,
both like
okay.
my music,
Okay.
but my youngest, she listens more closely to the stuff that I listen to. Yeah, really. And it was funny because there's a thing on Spotify that'll show your Spotify age
Uh-huh.
according to what you listen
Oh,
to.
really?
And mine was like 69 years old or something. And my daughter was like,
69.
mine's 67 and
Wow.
she's 19. So that's what she
Yeah.
listens to all the same stuff I do,
Yeah.
really. And so we relate in certain things like that. She's also an athlete. She's a collegiate athlete, very disciplined. She has that side of me that um can take the hits. Like I'm gonna take it's sometimes to my detriment, but I'll keep taking the hits. And so she'll keep pushing. My oldest is a lot more sensitive, a lot more empathetic. Like, children love her, as well. And she's also had to go through school of hard knocks on a lot of things because she has that side of me too. It's like, don't burn yourself on that stove if this is hot, but she's got to check it out for herself.
For herself.
My youngest will, go like, okay, he's burnt himself enough. I'm going to listen to him.
Yeah.
My oldest will have to check it out herself. Okay. As this is your path, and that's fine, but she's funny. She's funny, like, in a way that her mom's funny. Um, that I always found was a
Yeah.
nurturing quality, as well. So, and one's like a lot more easygoing. The youngest is like the bulldog. It's like when they go to the airport together, the one who's like
Yeah.
takes the lead is the youngest because it's my oldest is just a little more airy. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
She just goes with the flow.
Yeah, she's just a little more airy, and so she like misses things or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're two that different creatures, but they balance out really. It's a really interesting dynamic when they're together, and just to watch them from the
Yeah.
difference. And my friends notice it too.
Yeah.
I think is awesome now too, because I
Yeah.
have two adult daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you said something that stood out to me about, that you've done it all already. And, we all want to do things still because I feel the same. Like, had I, May 25th of 2021, had that been my last day on earth, that I remember the day before, the 24th, I was doing an inventory of my life. And I was telling myself, if I don't make it out of that operating room, I'm cool. I've gone everywhere I wanted to go, met everybody I wanted. I was okay. I was content. I knew I still wanted to do more things. But what do you still dream about? Since you've done it all. There's so I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
and
still
it's
more
like I
things.
haven't done it.
Yes, I
But
know,
from
but like
my
right from
all.
your all.
Yeah, I
Right.
had different dreams when I was in this podunk town, growing up, that I left early when I was 17, on my own. And I I had certain dreams. I wanted to achieve this and
Yeah.
this and, look like this and look like that, whatever it was. And I did these different things, right? Um, what I would like to experience now is, really, I would like to combine deeper what I do as an artist, performer, entertainer,
Mm-hmm.
and what I do with the healing work that I've done
Mm-hmm.
in a larger format. And I feel like what I'm doing right now in Art Becoming is kind of starting that in a way where it is a little more uh, deep than entertaining. It's like entertaining, but also you're feeling fed when you leave there. And I would like to have those stages present themselves, you know. Um, yeah, I would like to find a team that understands that knows the things that I don't know. Um, and it feels like that would be um, an exciting next chapter, you know. Um, and probably, I love, and it's funny because I love Las Vegas. There's a lot of things I really love about this town. It's a vortex.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, you have to really check with yourself,
Right.
you know. Um, but I would also like uh, a stretch of land that's a little greener, more mountainous as well. Um, yeah, and travel more. But I want to travel more, not as a tourist, but as an artist, because it allows you to connect with people. But I want to do it in the way that I just spoke about. I don't
Yeah.
want to go and just play a show. That's not as interesting to me. It's that combination. Like when I performed at yoga studios and did things like that,
Yeah.
I've done these weird combinations that it's just been more fulfilling, you know? So I'm opening myself up to these possibilities because it's outside of my known. Because if it's my known, I'm going to keep drawing from these experiences that I've had, but what I'm calling in, I don't know. It's unknown.
Right.
So I can't draw from that. I have to set my intention of this showing up and start walking where the breadcrumbs are in front of me, which is how I ended up doing the show in the first place.
Yeah.
All these things are always that. When I remember that and I let go of the ego and I let go of the control of it and I do the things that keep me in the right flow state and I step into that, then those things show up. So I don't have to worry about it because it's all there. It's all here,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this might be a thing that's happening for it. I don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
What makes CJ feel alive? Truly alive.
Well, I tell you, when I'm on stage connecting in that way, in that authentic way, I feel truly alive.
Okay.
Like there's been some moments, you know, actually there was s- uh, a songwriter, the composer showcase over at the Smith Center, uh, the last one I did. I talked about this song that I had written and this through line, and it was like this moment of connection with the crowd and with the song and with my performance. Like everything kind of came to as one. Like that makes me feel really alive because I see the mirror in that aliveness, and I see that connection
Yeah.
with everybody as one. That makes me feel alive. Um, Doing things that I feel are helping us in our evolution of our consciousness makes me feel alive, that can happen in little way. That can happen like this,
Yeah.
little act of kindness make me feel alive, and then, you know, like juicy connection and play makes me feel freaking alive too.
Right.
Because I don't get enough of that. You know, I'm a good-looking man.
Come
I
on
should
now,
get a lot
CJ.
more of that, and yet
You're
I
gonna tell
don't.
me you
So if you're
don't?
looking out here in TV land, wherever we're at, I could use a little loving.
You could use a little loving.
Yeah.
Somehow I don't think you have trouble in that
You know what? You'd be
department.
surprised, because
Really?
yeah, it's like there's a part of me that's like also, I've changed in a lot of ways. I don't go out and just like one night stand.
Yeah.
Like it's not my scene, but it used to be all my scene, right? You know, sometimes a few in a
I
night
can remember
stand.
you being a hoe.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it's also like I'm also very careful about getting into too deep of a relationship
Yeah.
if it's not right and not, because I have a hard time unwinding them,
Yeah.
and to my own, it's to my own detriment. And so I try to be careful about that. And but I also like the juiciness too, because that's a part of me that's, and um that makes me feel alive. Freedom of expression and always make me feel alive. Whether it's like musically, sexually, anything, like
Yeah.
that freedom of expression that uh, is like, that makes me feel like, oh, yeah, fucking like, yeah, that's alive. That's like yummy, and
Yeah.
that's a part that I want to harness, because that makes me feel alive. That
Yeah.
makes me wake up the next day and go like, yes, like this, more of this, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I want more of in my life. That's what I'm calling in. It's like more of that, you know, that type of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we said we're going to go with the flow with this conversation,
Okay.
but I would like my listeners to listen to your voice
My voice.
so they could hear you.
They've been listening to me yammer all day.
Do you want to like? I'll do the. I won't sing, but it was beautiful lyrics, and if you'd like to share this, if you want, we don't have to.
Okay. Well, I actually
Okay,
have to,
so you could share the story of
I'll
how you.
share the story of how this even came about because
Yeah.
Okay, so Nancy had asked me about do you have a song about mental health or something like that, right?
Yeah, and the reason why I reached out to you is because of the pic that you gave me. And I'll never forget looking into your eyes. And like I said, the kindness that I saw. And it's even when I'm out, like when I'm out campaigning in politics, there's still a gentleman that's interesting. When I was campaigning 2 years ago, we were having a conversation, and we were just talking politics and whatnot, and I was telling him why I was supporting the person that I was campaigning for. And anyhow, we got into just talking about life, sat at his front door for like an hour. Then he invited me into his garage because I was telling him that I liked cigars. He gave me a cigar, and he gave me like a border for a license plate. And I told him, I said, I'm going to come back and I'm going to bring you a cigar from my humidor. And I haven't had time, but I took a screenshot of his address, and he's like, you're not going to come back. I said, no, I will come back. It might take me, it might not be right away. It might be like a year or two, maybe even 3, but I won't forget. And when I was looking through the pictures, because I was trying to find that picture that I snapped of the heart that you gave me that day, that I had in the palm of my hand, and that little gesture, like I said. So I came across his address. I'm like, I still need to go hand him a cigar. And I know I've not forgotten our conversation, and I know he hasn't either. And he'll be shocked that I still went back to bring him a cigar like I said I would, so yeah. So when I was thinking about, who I could reach out to about coming on and having the courage to be vulnerable and having these conversations, and I knew that you were going to give me an authentic conversation because it's who you are, it's your essence. And when I first met you, I knew that you were doing coaching and whatnot. I didn't know that you weren't doing it anymore. I hope that you do start it up again, because I think you have so much to offer to the world. Because like I said, that one little moment in interaction that I had with you in 2021, I was just mentally, like I said, devastated. And you were just, there's a kindness to you that I don't even know if you know, that I at least see it in your eyes. And I don't see it in very many people. And it's sad when I think about it, that I wish more people had it. And so I hope that you do take up that work again and help others, because I think you're gifted just as a human, and the world is missing humanity, and I think that you do offer that, not just to women but to men as well. So that's why I reached out to you, because you were one of the ones that stood out to me as I was thinking of the men to come on and have a conversation with. So thank you so much for that. But the story you were going to tell, the story and
so
the
you
song,
asked
the
about
lyrics,
playing the music or whatever, and so I was like, I don't know what I would.
You wanted me to sing.
What I would play, so I was going to have her sing because. So I said I don't really have a song in that. A lot of my songs are healing or whatever, but as far as that, and I didn't know the setup. And sometimes, I've been on podcasts before, and they'll want me to play, and it's like I don't really sound that good for the setup they have and everything else when you're playing live. They're just, there's a delay, there's a thing, and it's like, awkward. So I didn't do that. So, but it reminded me of a song. There was a friend of mine from high school, and her mom had killed herself when she was a kid, and she started a nonprofit called You Matter, and it's for children that whose parents have committed suicide. And she was doing a thing, and she'd asked me to do a song, and so I did this song on the fly, and so I started singing it, and I said, you should sing it with me. So this is how it all came out, but it was like, through every smile and every frown, and every upside and every down, longing for meaning, wondering why you're here, trying to wrap this mystery year after year, but hang in, stay strong. You are right where you belong. You are everything you hope for, everything and more. You are la 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 la. You are love. So
that was awesome.
That was a part of a song that I put together and recorded and sent out for that moment. And it was with mental health, because these children that have to be.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I know that we've been going. How long now? Have we been going there?
12 hours.
I know.
12 hours.
Hour and a
It's
half.
like a Jerry
Oh my
Lewis
God.
telethon up in here.
Yeah, I could usually feel when it's an hour, and I will ask him, like, Aaron, how long have I been talking? And he'll say, if it's just me, 45 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah, but I know. So, which is good, because I haven't been looking at the clock. So, but I know that you have a trip that you have to head out for, and I don't want to take up all your time, because you've been so generous for giving me your time today.
Appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, any words of wisdom before we sign off and say goodbye that you can leave a man or a woman with, if they're ever contemplating going down that route of, taking their lives, or struggling with mental health or depression, whatever it might be that you've experienced?
Talk to somebody and know that it's not going to solve anything. It's going to create more wounds. And if you're energy eternal, on and on we go, you're going to carry that baggage into the next life or whatever thing, and have to experience that in a deeper, harder level. It's almost like this. When my children do a thing, right, and I go, oh, don't do that, right, and then they know better and they do it, they get a little harsher treatment because they did the thing, right? So if you have this struggle, it's yours to work through, and you may be the salve for someone else at some point for whatever thing you're going through. If you can actually, turn that into a victory, into a new story for yourself, because the thing you're going through is a story. It's not the story. You're not at the finish line yet. You're at this part in the story, and that's going to be a chapter that you're going to move through as well at some point. And there's beauty out there for you that you've yet to even dream of, whatever that is. So just keep moving, because you're not going to solve the problem by ending this.
Yeah.
You're going to just go on like, It's like, well, you knew better. Now you have to try it with all of this baggage.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how it works. I'm not willing to take that chance. You shouldn't either. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now on 7/7/7 at 7 p.m. MySpace Las Vegas, right?
The space.
Oh, the space Las
No,
Vegas.
MySpace is a whole different thing.
Yeah, MySpace.
The space.
MySpace, the space.
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Not social media. I thought MySpace. Yeah.
This one with Kyle Martin, the piano man.
Yes, on
7/7.
7 p.m. Doors
7
open.
p.m.
7 p.m. What time do doors
Yeah.
open?
July 7th, 7 p.m. Doors open at 6:30. But
Okay.
we're gonna go with the 7/7/7 because it is Vegas. And
Yeah.
it's all the luck's gonna be in that room, so you can go there and get lucky.
And he'll be there.
I'll be there.
Remember, he needs
Maybe
some
I'll
loving.
get
So, and then, do you have a place where they can get tickets? Do you have a website?
Yeah, if you go to
And your book.
thespacelv.com, you can get tickets. Thespacelv.com, and if you, carljohn.com or Google Carl John. My book is out there on Audible and Amazon and that. And it's Carl John, The Journey Home, is the audiobook.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I hope
You
that,
can find me at carljohn.com.
and I do, and I hope that, like I said, that you start that healing work again to help others, because you're definitely the right person to lead such an important cause, and
Thank
you're
you.
perfect for it.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. Thank you for being with me tonight and your time. And with that said, for everybody that listened, and like I said, we're recording on Saturday. It's what's today? The 20th. So this will air on the 23rd. I hope you've had a wonderful Father's Day, and I hope that you've enjoyed the conversation. And thank you again so much for your time and being a part of my riot. Thank you, CJ. Thank you.